The afternoon it happened, the light was the kind that makes you believe in mercy. It poured through my front windows slow and honey-colored, laying itself across the carpet in wide, quiet bands. As if the sun had decided my little living room deserved to be blessed. The house smelled like warm cotton and lavender polish. The ceiling fan clicked in its lazy rhythm. My hands were busy with something small and harmless, threading a needle, tugging a seam closed on my granddaughter's stuffed bear. The bear was old enough to have lost its dignity. One ear drooped. One eye was a little loose. The belly had opened where a child's love had been too fierce. I was stitching it back together the way grandmothers do, without complaint, without fuss, with the steady belief that if you're patient enough, most things can be made whole again. I remember thinking about cake. That's what my mind was holding, right before it split. What flavor? How many candles? Whether I should make the frosting from scratch or buy the good vanilla from the little international shop downtown. I was thinking about a 10-year-old's happiness. The kind that's still simple enough to fit in a birthday song. Then the phone rang. Not a sweet ring. Not the friendly chirp my grandson once set up for me because he said I deserved something cheerful. This was the old landline in the hallway, the one I kept because I liked hearing a real bell inside my home. That bell slammed through the air like an alarm. It felt sharp. Wrong. Like someone pounding on the door in the middle of the night. My hand paused over the teddy bear. The needle caught the fabric, and for a second I couldn't remember how to move my fingers. I told myself not to be dramatic. At my age, you learn to scold yourself gently. You learn to say, it's probably a telemarketer. It's probably a doctor's office. It's probably nothing. But I felt it. That small animal instinct that lives underneath the ribs. The one that doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in cold. I picked up the receiver. Hello, I said. And even as the word left my mouth, I knew I had stepped onto a different road. There was no greeting, no breathy hi or nervous laugh, just a voice that sounded scraped, like metal dragged across stone. Not quite human, not quite machine, something in between, something that felt designed to make your skin tighten. We have your daughter. The room didn't move, but my sense of it did. The floor stayed where it was, the walls stayed straight, but my body tilted internally, as if some hidden hinge had come loose. My tongue went numb. My lungs forgot their job. Kyla, the voice added. And said her name like it didn't belong to a person. Like it was an item on a list. She's alive. For now. My knees softened so fast I had to brace myself against the hallway table. The receiver shook in my hand. My eyes slid to the family photos on the wall. Kyla at 16 with braces. Kyla at 21 in a cap and gown. Kyla holding her baby in the hospital light. Her face tired and proud and new. My daughter wasn't a headline. She wasn't a cautionary tale. She was my child. My only child. The one I had delivered into this world with my own body. The one I had loved through every version of her. Even the sharp ones. What do you mean? I heard myself whisper, like the word might soften the reality if I said it politely. The voice continued, flat as a ledger. 250,000. Your savings. 24 hours. No police. No games. If you want her back, you do exactly what we say. And then came the sound that broke me open. A short clip. A recording. Grainy. Static. Too close. A woman sobbing. Mama. She cried. And it was her voice. It was my child's voice. It was the voice I had heard sing in the shower. Whine about homework. Laugh at movies. Whisper apologies into my shoulder when she was small. But now it was a voice, torn, desperate, thin with fear. Mama, please. The clip cut off mid, like the world had slammed a door. The line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver to my ear, listening to nothing. That nothing was loud? It crowded the hallway until it felt like I was trapped inside it. My heart hammered so hard I could see my blouse moving with each thud. The teddy bear slipped from my lap and landed on the floor with a soft, dumb sound. The tiny catastrophe of it made me want to scream. Because I couldn't fix this the way I fixed seams. I don't know how long I stood there. In my memory, time becomes a thick syrup around moments like that. Everything slows. Everything becomes sharp and blurry at once. I remember stumbling to the front door like I was drunk. I remember my fingers fumbling the lock. I remember the air outside being normal neighbors, sprinklers ticking, a distant lawnmower, a bird making the same stupid call it always made from the oak tree. Normal, and taped to my door, right at eye level, was a plain white envelope. Stark, quiet, like an insult. My hands were trembling so hard. The tape tore unevenly when I pulled it loose. The paper inside was heavy, pressed hard with thick ink. Instructions, a bank account number, threats written like someone was trying on a costume of cruelty. We're watching. Note cops one mistake and she's gone. I brought the note to the dining table and spread it flat like a map to hell. For the first hour, I was pure panic. A creature made only of mother. I paced until my feet hurt. I pressed my palms to my forehead until my skin ached. I called her phone again and again, as if the universe might take pity and let her answer with an embarrassed laugh. I left voicemail after voicemail, my voice climbing into a pitch I barely recognized. Honey, please. Kyla, please call me. It's Mom. If this is a joke, stop it, please. When the calls went straight to voicemail, I dialed the bank. I tried to speak like a normal customer. I tried to say family emergency with enough calm to keep the woman on the line from hearing the crack in my sanity. They transferred me to a manager. He spoke with that careful customer service patience that feels like a wall. He said words like protocol and security hold and federal regulations. As if my daughter's life could be filed under policy. My mouth tasted like pennies. I wanted to reach through the phone and shake him until he understood what terror actually was. You don't understand. I begged. She could be dying. Ma'am, he said, and I could hear him swallowing his own discomfort. Large transfers require verification. It's for your protection. Protection. The word landed wrong. Like a joke told at a funeral. I hung up and sank into a chair. My living room swam in and out of focus. I stared at my hands. These hands had braided Kyla's hair, wrapped her scraped knees, held her feverish forehead, signed permission slips, written checks for school trips, clapped at recitals. These hands knew exactly what it meant to keep a child safe. And now, I was being told to wait. The rage that rose up inside me then was not righteous yet. It was raw and blind. Rage at the world. Rage at my own helplessness. Rage at my old body for not being able to sprint into action the way it used to. I looked around the room and saw traces of Kyla everywhere. A sweater she'd left on the back of a chair. A mug with her lipstick stain in the cabinet. A half-finished craft project she'd started with Imani at my table. Evidence that she existed in my life in small, messy ways. I wanted that mess. I wanted her back. I would have emptied every account, sold every piece of jewelry, given away my home. I would have handed over my bones. If someone told me that would bring her safely through my door. And that was what they were counting on. Because love, when it's unguarded, is the easiest thing to rob. Hours passed, and the first frantic wave didn't calm so much as it changed shape. Fear gets tired. It doesn't leave, but it starts to settle into your muscles like a fever. I sat at the dining table with the ransom note in front of me and read it until the words became shapes. The ink looked too fresh, too heavy. The threats felt staged, like a play written by someone who had watched too many crime shows. I didn't want to think that thought. I tried to drown it. I told myself I was imagining patterns because my brain needed something to hold on to. But then my eyes snagged on a tiny detail, and it was like a hook in my skin. One letter, a flourish at the bottom of a word, a loop too dramatic for someone supposedly writing in haste. A little habit of the hand, familiar my mind, rejected it immediately. No, it said, don't be cruel, don't be insane. Your daughter is in danger. You don't get to doubt her pain. I stood up and walked to the kitchen to shake it off, to make my body do something normal. I poured a glass of water. My hand sloshed it onto the counter. I wiped the spill without thinking. Habit, muscle memory. The small rituals we cling to when the world is burning. And then my gaze drifted to the refrigerator. It's funny what holds us together. Not grand monuments. Not expensive things. A refrigerator door. A collage of magnets and drawings and small paper scraps that say, life happened here. A card was pinned there. Bright pink. My birthday card from Kyla, given just a few weeks before. It had some silly poem about mothers being angels. The kind of thing you buy last minute at a drugstore but write in with real feeling. I remembered opening it and smiling, because she had signed it with that old affectionate nickname she used when she wanted me softened. I stepped closer. I pulled the card free. The magnet dropped to the floor with a clatter that sounded too loud in my quiet kitchen. I carried the card back to the dining table like it was fragile, like it might shatter if I held it too tightly. I placed it next to the ransom note, and everything inside me went still. The loop. The flourish, the exaggerated tail on a letter. It matched, not similar. Not close. Identical. Like the same hand had written both in two different moods, one sweet, one cruel. My stomach fell through the floor. My scalp prickled. My body went cold in a way that had nothing to do with air temperature. I stared harder, forcing my eyes to be scientific. I looked for other clues. Phrase choices. Word rhythm. The ransom note said or else. And something in my memory twitched Kyla saying that when she was 16. Teasing, dramatic, threatening to ground herself in her own bedroom, unless she got what she wanted. Do it, Mom, or else. It had been a joke then, a little stage performance. Now it was a ghost of her teenage self hiding in a crime. My throat tightened. I tried to breathe, but the air felt too thick. No, no, no. No, no. The world has a certain order you believe in because you have to. Mothers don't become predators to their own mothers. Daughters don't weaponize the sound of their own crying. Families don't do this. But the paper in front of me didn't care what I believed. That's when my granddaughter came into the room. Soft footsteps, pajamas with little stars, the teddy bear cradled in her arms, the same bear I'd been mending before my life split open. Her face was half worried, half sleepy. The expression children wear when they sense thunder in the house, but don't yet know the weather has changed. She looked at the papers on the table, then at me. Grandma, she whispered, are you mad? Her voice was so small, so clean, like water. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What do you tell a child when the grown-ups have shattered the universe? She stepped closer, hugging the bear tighter. She lowered her voice like she was sharing a secret. Is Mommy on her secret beach trip? The sentence hit me like a slap and a mercy at the same time. Secret trip beach. My hands went numb. My heart didn't race anymore. It did something worse. It steadied. Because in that one innocent question, the last puzzle piece slid into place with a click. There was no kidnapping. There was no monster holding my daughter in a dark room. The monster was my daughter. And in the space where panic had lived, something colder arrived. Not loud, not explosive, not messy. Clear. I leaned toward Imani and smoothed her hair back from her forehead with a hand that did not shake. I forced my face into softness because she did not deserve to see what was happening inside me. Double quotes, sweetheart. I said, gently, go wash your hands and pick a cartoon. Okay. Grandma just has to make some phone calls. She hesitated. Her eyes searched mine. Children always know. They don't understand details, but they understand danger. I kissed her forehead. I'm here, I whispered. I've got you. When she padded out of the room, clutching the bear, I sat very still at my table and looked down at my life's paperwork. The ransom note, the birthday card, the bank statements stacked in a neat pile from months ago. Then I did something that surprised even me. I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because it was unbearable. I pressed my palm to my mouth until the sound stopped. Then I wiped my face. Not tears, just the leftover salt of fear drying on my skin. My daughter thought she was clever, but I had taught her to write. I had taught her to shape letters, to use language like a tool, to persuade and soften and convince. I had spent my whole career reading stories people didn't want to admit they were living. I had listened to teenagers lie with trembling mouths and parents pretend they didn't see bruises that didn't match the excuses. I had been trained, by life and work, to notice what people tried to hide. My daughter had forgotten that. I picked up the phone again, not the bank, not KYLA, the police. When the dispatcher answered, I didn't sob, I didn't ramble, I didn't let my voice climb into hysteria. I spoke like a woman giving directions to a stranger. Calm, precise, unignorable. I believe my daughter is staging a kidnapping, I said. I have evidence. I need a detective. They transferred me to a man with a tired voice. He sounded like he'd heard every version of human foolishness and pain. At first, I could feel him putting me in a box in his mind. Elderly mother. Distressed. Maybe confused. Maybe scammed. I let him. I didn't fight his skepticism with emotion. I fought it with facts. You have to come see the handwriting, I said. Bring someone who understands what they're looking at. There was a pause. Then a sigh. Then, ma'am, stress can make people see patterns. I'm not stressed, I cut in, and my voice had an edge like glass. I'm awake. Come to my house. An hour later, he sat at my dining table, broad shoulders filling my chair like it wasn't built for him. He took out reading glasses and leaned in. He compared the ransom note to the birthday card. He stared for a long time. I watched his face shift from polite doubt to something darker. He leaned back and exhaled through his nose. Well, he muttered, almost to himself. That's something. It's her, I said. He didn't argue. We talked quietly while my granddaughter watched cartoons in the next room, blissfully unaware that her mother was dismantling her life for a tan and a man. The detective asked questions. I answered. I told him about Kyla's boyfriend, the one with the smooth smile and the eyes that never warmed, the one who always noticed my jewelry, the one who once made a joke about how seniors had it easy because we already owned everything. I had laughed then, a polite laugh. The kind women use when they don't want to start a war at the dinner table. Now the memory tasted sour. The detective explained procedure. I listened. Then I said, "No, we're not going to scare them off." His eyebrows lifted. "They think I'm panicking." I said, "They think I'm obedient. They think my love will make me hand them whatever they want." I looked down at the ransom note, then back up. "Let them think that a little longer." He studied my face like he was recalibrating his understanding of me. "You want to play along?" he said slowly. "I want to trap them," I answered. He hesitated. "The way men in that job do when a civilian wants to step into the machinery of justice. It can be dangerous." "It's already dangerous," I said. "Just in a different direction." In the end, we agreed on a plan that didn't require guns or hero speeches. Just patience. Just letting greedy people walk into their own net. I made the call back to the burner number. My voice, when the metallic answer came, was trembling on purpose. I let fear drip into it like honey. I begged. I pleaded. I talked about bank delays. I cried at the right moments. I apologize, because kidnappers love apologies. It makes them feel powerful. "Please," I said. I'm trying. Just don't hurt her." The voice on the other end snapped instructions, fed on my performance. It told me where to transfer, what not to do. It threatened again. Over and over. I let it, because every second I kept them talking. The detectives team was tracing, watching, connecting dots. For 2 days, I lived like a woman with two faces. In front of my granddaughter, I was ordinary. I baked cookies. I made dinner. I tied her shoes. I brushed her hair. I laughed at her jokes. I read her bedtime stories with steady hands even when my insides felt like broken glass. In the quiet gaps, I became something else. A strategist. I sent messages. I responded exactly enough to keep them confident. I pretended I was confused when they wanted me confused. I pretended I was weak when they needed me weak. It is a strange thing, discovering how easy it is to wear helplessness like a costume, when people already expect it of you, and underneath the performance, there was grief. Not the grief of losing a child to death, the grief of losing a child to choice, because betrayal is not just pain, it is disorientation. It makes you question every memory. It makes you wonder when the love stopped being mutual. It makes you search backward for the moment the person you raised turned into a stranger. On the 3rd day, the detective called. "We found her," he said. I expected relief to come like a wave, like I'd seen in films. I expected to fall to my knees and sob with gratitude. Instead, I felt emptiness, a deep hollowing, like the fear had been holding me up and now it was gone, leaving me too tired to stand. "She's alive?" I asked. "Yes," he said. Then, after a beat, "And she's not exactly tied up in a basement." A photo arrived on my phone minutes later. Bright blue sky, white sand, my daughter in sunglasses on a lounge chair, a drink sweating in her hand. She looked happy, radiant, like the world had never asked her to be decent. The camera caught the moment just before the officers reached her, the last second of her fantasy before it collapsed. Stared at her face and tried to summon anger hot enough to scorch the image. What I felt was colder. A sorrow so deep it didn't have shape anymore. The detective's voice came through again. Her boyfriend wasn't with her. "We have him here. He panicked when the money didn't move. He's volatile. He thinks you stopped it." I didn't need him to explain what that meant. I had lived long enough to understand men who feel entitled to other people's resources. Men like that don't accept failure. They don't accept consequences. They look for someone to punish. "He's coming," the detective said. The air in my house changed. My home had been my sanctuary, my safe little world of routines and warm smells and family photos. Now it felt like a stage waiting for the final act. "We have units nearby," he told me. "Stay inside. Lock everything. Do what we discussed." I looked down the hallway toward my granddaughter's room. I could see the faint glow of her nightlight under the door. My voice came out steady. "Let him come." I don't know if you understand what it takes for a grandmother to say that. Not bravado, not recklessness. Decision. I moved through my house and locked every window, every door. I drew the curtains. I dimmed the lights until only one lamp glowed in the living room, making the corners heavy with shadow. I sat in my chair facing the front door and waited. The waiting is the part no one writes about properly. Waiting is not passive. Waiting is a kind of endurance. Every sound becomes a threat. Every creak of wood becomes a footstep. Your body holds itself ready, as if bracing for impact, for hours. At some point, I realized my hands weren't trembling. They were gripping the armrests like they belonged to someone else. My heart wasn't racing anymore. It was steady, heavy, determined. 2 hours passed. Then, a car slowed outside. An engine cut, a door slammed. Footsteps ran up my walkway like a drumroll. No knock. No pause. The front door exploded inward with a sound that felt like the house itself screaming. Wood splintered. Air rushed in. The smell of cold night poured into my warm living room. He stormed inside like he owned the world. Big, angry, wild-eyed. The man I'd seen at my table, pretending charm, was gone. This was the creature underneath. Desperate, blaming, violent. Where is it? He barked. He kicked over an end table. A lamp shattered. The sound made me flinch, but I didn't move from my chair. I forced my face into the expression he expected, a frightened old woman, cornered and helpless. You, he spat. And his breath smelled like whiskey and rage. You ruined everything. You think you're smarter than us? Where's the money? He advanced on me fast. He grabbed my sweater at the collar and yanked me up like I was nothing. Pain sparked in my shoulder. My spine pressed against the wall. His face came close, eyes empty with greed. In that moment, fear rushed through Muriel. Fear sharp enough to taste. For a fraction of a second, the part of me that wanted to survive, screamed, do anything, say anything, give him anything. And then I thought of my granddaughter. Her small body curled around that bear. Her whisper about a secret beach trip. Her innocence standing in the doorway of my nightmare. And something inside me locked into place. I drew in air and screamed one word, not his name, not my daughter's, not a plea. My granddaughter's name. The safe word. The reason. The thing I would not lose. The house erupted. From the sides. From the back. From the broken doorway. Officers poured in like night itself. Fast and silent and decisive. He barely had time to turn before he was tackled, driven to the floor, pinned, cuffed. He roared, thrashed, screamed threats that meant nothing now. The metal clicks of handcuffs sounded like the end of a chapter. I slid down the wall onto the floor and realized my legs had been holding me up on pure will. Someone asked if I was hurt. Someone offered a blanket. Someone picked up the shattered lamp pieces. I didn't cry then. I just sat there breathing, listening to my house, my wounded house, settle back into stillness. Later, after statements and paperwork and the long slow fade of adrenaline, the detective sat with me at my dining table again. He told me the boyfriend had started talking immediately, trying to save himself by blaming my daughter. He told me my daughter blamed him in return. Two people who had called themselves lovers crumbling into accusations the moment consequences arrived. He said it all like a man who had seen it 1,000 times. But for me, it was new. The particular flavor of it. The way betrayal tastes when it comes from your own blood. My daughter was extradited. Arrested. Her vacation ended in handcuffs instead of sunsets. Her boyfriend faced charges. The bank accounts were frozen. The money was safe. None of that fixed the part of me that had cracked. The legal part was clean. The emotional part was not. People brought neighbors whispered. Friends looked at me with that mixture of pity and curiosity, like they couldn't decide whether to comfort me or ask for details. They said, I'm sorry, and meant well, but their sorrow was aimed at the wrong thing. They thought I lost my daughter in the arrest. I had lost her long before. I lost her when she decided love could be cashed. I lost her when she recorded her own tears and fed them to me like poison. I lost her when she looked at her child's future and chose a beach instead. In the months that followed, my home was repaired. The door was replaced, stronger than before. The walls were patched, the carpet cleaned. The broken lamp was replaced with a new one that gave off softer light. To an outsider, it looked like life returned to normal. But I was not normal anymore. Because once you have seen the shape of someone's selfishness, you cannot unsee it. Once you have watched your own child try to mine your heart for profit, you can't go back to being the same soft mother in the same soft chair. The court granted me custody of my granddaughter. That part was strangely quiet. Paperwork, hearings, a judge with tired eyes who had seen too many families collapse. A pen scratching across official documents deciding the future of a little girl who deserved better than the adults around her. When it was done, I brought my granddaughter home and tucked her into bed under my roof. And I sat on the edge of her mattress watching her breathe. She slept like she always had. Deep. Trusting. That trust landed in my chest like both a gift and a responsibility. So heavy it could have crushed me if I let it. Some nights, when she's asleep, I walk through my house and touch the familiar things: photo frames, doorways, the back of the sofa, like I'm reminding myself it's real, that I'm still here, that I held the line. I think about my daughter sometimes, not with longing, but with a complicated ache. I think about the little girl she was, the way she used to write stories at the kitchen table with her tongue poking out in concentration. I think about how proud I was when she won her first school essay contest. I think about the way I clapped and cried because I believed her words meant something. Maybe they did. Maybe they still do, in some twisted way. Because her writing gave her away. Her flourish. Her habit. Her signature loop, like a little flag she couldn't stop planting in the world. And it was that tiny detail, the kind of detail most people overlook, that saved us. It saved my money, yes. But more than that, it saved my granddaughter. It saved my life from being rewritten as a story where I was a gullible old woman left broken in the wake of someone else's greed. Now, I'm older than I was that afternoon. My hands still mend things. Bears, buttons, torn hems. I still bake cakes. Chocolate, usually, because children know what they want and they're honest about it. I still sit in my living room when the sunlight turns golden and dust motes dance like tiny planets in the air. But when the phone rings, my heart doesn't soften first anymore. It listens. It weighs. It remembers. And sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and my granddaughter has curled around the teddy bear I stitched back together, I sit alone with a cup of tea and let myself feel the strangest truth of all. You can love someone with your whole soul and still have to stop them from destroying you. You can be someone's mother and still have to become your own protector. It's a bitter wisdom. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't make for easy sayings on greeting cards. But it's real. And maybe that's what age gives you. If you survive long enough to learn it, the ability to live with a heart that's been cracked open, without letting it turn to stone. I don't know what will become of my daughter. I don't sit by the window waiting for redemption like it's a bus schedule. Some people find their way back to decency. Some don't. I can't carry that journey for her anymore. What I can carry is my granddaughter. What I can carry is the quiet, steady work of making a home safe again. And if you're listening somewhere far from my little living room, if you've ever felt someone's greed reach for you like a hand in the dark, I want you to know this softly, plainly. Being kind does not mean being breakable. Being old does not mean being blind. And if someone tries to write a story where you are the victim who never figures it out, let them keep writing. Let them get comfortable. Let them believe you're weak. Because one day, when they least expect it, you will pick up the pen they forgot you placed in their hand. And you will rewrite the ending.